So Bart, we've talked before, obviously, when you had a little change in your plans. Hey Bart.
Hi, Margaret.
Hello. So we're streaming and when the last time we spoke, you were changing your career trajectory and in radio. And can you tell me what's been going on? Like what happened?
Well, basically, COVID happened. And what happened was we were always thinking about moving to North Carolina, and we were working from home. And we found a house in North Carolina that we really, really liked and thought now's the perfect time to make this purchase. And we were both working full-time jobs. I was doing traffic and weather and stuff like that, and had a air shift at WLIT on the weekends. And I said to my bosses at the time, hey, since we're working from home, what if home were 700 miles from here? They kind of shrugged their shoulders and went, okay. And so we moved to North Carolina. We bought a house. We sold our house in Chicago like in one day. It was amazing, for gobs of money. It was almost like a fair trade for what we bought the house here for what we sold our house in Chicago for. It was pretty amazing. But we put a lot of money into this house since, and we really love living here. Meanwhile, I was doing traffic from North Carolina for Chicago. Didn't matter where the actual voice was coming from because the information was coming from downtown Chicago. And I was just spoke into a microphone and it went out just like it would from my house in Chicago on the Northwest side. Same thing here in North Carolina. Eventually, my bosses found ways to get rid of me. They just didn't like me. And they didn't like the idea of me living here, I don't think. But it worked out well for me because I was going to retire anyway. Last December, I had plans to just retire because I'm getting up there in age. Well, it worked out great because in May of 2022, they fired me and paid me a year's severance. Amazing, because I had worked there for so long. I had a year's severance and I got unemployment. And 2022, I made more money than I've ever made before in the broadcast business. So it worked out pretty well for me.
Yeah,
And now,
yeah.
now I'm retired, and there's a little radio station in town here, WSQL, that I've been helping out for years. And they play oldies, a mix of some new stuff every once in a while, and mostly oldies. And they play my podcasts that I do, ZCOM Radio Hour and Time Warp Radio, which I've been doing for 14 years. So I'm still doing that actively, and the station here in town has been playing that. And all of a sudden, they decided they really wanted me to be on the air here. So they're very limited as to what kind of funds they have and can't really afford to pay me what I want or should deserve at this point in my career. But it's a fun little radio station. I help them out whenever I can. And I do a few air shifts for them every now and then lately. So in fact, I just went there today and picked up a paycheck from them. So that was kind of nice.
Yeah. I mean, you may technically be retired from Chicago radio, but you're doing a lot. But at that station, what is that station? I mean, what kind of stuff do they play?
Well, it's a AM FM combination, and they play everything from 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000 oldies, mostly oldies. And it's fun for me to go in there and go on the air because they let me do whatever I want. So like, let's say a song's coming up in the rotation that I don't want to play. Like, I'll give you an example. For some reason, Chic, Les Freaks always pops up. And I hate that song. I don't want to play it. So I delete it and put in like Otis Redding or something I like. And they're cool with that. They like my style and taste in music and let me do whatever I want. So it's really a pleasure to just hang out there. I would probably do it for free, but I don't want to commit to too much.
Right. And then, do you know how old that station is or the history of it? WSQL, you said?
Yeah, WSQL. I'm not really sure how long it's been around,
Okay.
but it's been there a while, long time.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's it like to essentially play what you want? Not that you can 100% do it, but what's it like to be able to, change out a tune when in regular commercial radio, I don't think you
Oh,
can do that, right?
yeah, that's unheard of, really, and it's so much fun for me. So I play whatever I want. It's just kind of like on Time Warp Radio. I play people's requests, but for the most part, I play what I want. 50s and 60s, 70s, oldies, and stuff like that. And so, like yesterday was Eric Burden's 82nd birthday. So if I were on the air, I would play some Eric Burden songs. I think today's Steve Winwood's birthday. So I would play, some Blind Faith music or something like that. There's always a reason to play music. And, it's fun for me. So,
yeah. And what's it like I mean, obviously you have really great weather, it looks like, but what's it like in that town?
it's a lot of retirees and a lot of young people too. There's a lot of breweries in town. And we participate at one particular place. In fact, my wife just went there now. They're doing a fundraiser for one of the schools in town, and our niece is there. And so as soon as I'm done here, I'm going to join them there. And so there's, I think, 5 breweries in this small little town of 8,000 people. We're not too far from Asheville. And it's funny, all of a sudden, like last night, we were at a bar, the same bar actually, and they had some great music going on there. And there was this guy, Gary, who was playing harmonica. Helicopter going by. Let's see, that's it. And he was telling us that Artemis Pyle, you know who that is?
No, or maybe I do. I don't know. Who is
He
that?
was in Leonard Skinner. He was the drummer.
Oh, okay.
One of the sole survivors of the plane crash.
Oh.
Anyway, he lives around here. And a lot of interesting people live around here. Like Steve Martin lives here sometimes. His wife is from here. Okay. And as a matter of fact, my next door neighbor used to date Steve Martin's wife before Steve Martin.
Wow.
And it's just so funny, the people you run into here. Like we'll be at the local grocery store, Ingles, and there'll be Steve Martin there shopping. So it's a fun.
Is he really tall?
Yeah.
Does anybody talk to him, or they just leave him alone?
They pretty much leave him alone. I mean, I've only seen him once. They have this festival every year called Mountain Song, which is put on by the Steep Canyon Rangers, which is a Grammy Award-winning group that's from here. And Steve Martin Short, well, Steve Martin, being from here, hooked up with the Steep Canyon Rangers because he was here and connected with them. And he goes out and plays with them with Martin Short every once in a while. And so, we're at the Mountain Song a couple of years ago, and sitting 2 seats down from us was Steve Martin. It happens.
And what's it like to live around you said it's mostly retired people. What's it like to live around mostly retired people as opposed to, living in the city of Chicago where there are different kinds of people?
It's kind of weird because on Mondays and Tuesdays, everything here is closed. It's really strange. So like if you wanted to go out to eat, it's almost impossible. There's a few places open, but overall things are closed. Stuff shuts down at 9:00 at night. Most things. The bars stay open, of course, but everything else is closed by 8:30, 9:00. So it's a small town environment, but we're pretty close to Asheville. That's if you lived in Chicago and went to Naperville every day to work, or maybe you lived in Naperville and went to Chicago, that's the same distance to Asheville. So
you mentioned there. Yeah, I went to that radio WSQL's website, and it didn't give the history. I'll look at it later, but they just gave their story. But when you said, you mentioned Time Warp Radio, and hasn't it expanded a lot since I first interviewed you for several years ago?
I have people contacting me all the time asking me, can I run your show? I'm like, yeah. And I don't charge for it, and I don't solicit stations. People just find me. Some guy named Gary Gallagher just wrote me 2 days ago. He said, hey, I've opened up an internet station in Scotland. I'd like to run your show. I'm like, okay. Put him on the mailing list. He's running the show.
Nice. And how many years have you been doing it?
14.
Okay, so I interviewed, and let's see when I last, I mean, when I interviewed you the first time, that was several years ago. So I think it was in the early days.
Well, I'm on show number 645
Wow.
of Time Warp. And I
Wow.
meticulously uh, labeled them one at a time. So I started with one and I'm in 645 now. Every once in a while, there'll be a rerun or so. As a matter of fact, a week from this coming Tuesday, I'm going to Italy for 10 days.
Wow.
My sister works in New York City, and her boss has this house near Tuscany, and he wants it to be occupied. So she goes there to work 4 times a year or so for 6 weeks at a time. And I said, hey, what if I came, since I'm not working and doing anything, can I come out? She's like, yeah, for sure. So I'm going to Italy.
That's incredible. I cannot believe she has a boss that wants her to be in his incredible place. I mean, does he live there also? I mean, does he stay there ever, or?
Well, he goes once in a while, but not at the same time.
Right. But I mean, he doesn't
I
use
don't
it.
know what to expect. I don't know what to expect. I'm
Wow.
looking forward to it.
That would be an incredible perk of a job. It's like, hey, you got to stay in Italy, and I'll still pay you to work and everything, and have a nice day. Wow.
Yeah. She said there's a gelato place that they have a open tab at. So be
Nice.
prepared for that.
Wow.
Oh, okay. You mentioned the weather before here, and it's pretty nice. We have winter, but it's usually never too bad. It sometimes is as cold here as it is in Chicago in the morning, 20 degrees, something like that. But it warms up to about 50 or 60 during the day in the winter even.
Nice.
And this time of the year, it's really nice. I mean, once we've made that turn, I think the same for Chicago. It's, pretty nice. Once you get past like May 15th or so, it's nice. But we don't have those brutal summers like you have in Chicago.
Yeah, it's very humid here.
So it may be 82 degrees here in the summer. It's not as humid. And at night, it goes down to like, 62, 63. We supposedly, I haven't seen it yet, but our neighbors are saying there's a 300-pound bear on the loose out here. So we have to be careful about what we leave out.
Oh gosh. And okay, I was gonna say that the first time I interviewed you ever for this podcast was in October 2010. And you were interview number 37, which I did some interviews in the beginning with the same person, but you were one of my first early interviews in general. And so you were pretty new with Time Warp Radio.
Okay. Well, Margaret, we've known each other a long time.
Yeah, and what's funny is we never worked together. I think I just met you in the radio business in general. And yeah, you were really encouraging. But okay, so I'm just looking at your website, and you post every day?
Yeah.
And how long is each episode of Time Warp?
Well, every day there's one song, Monday through Friday, and I find a song that I think is interesting, or maybe you haven't heard of before, or something like that, and I post it, and people download it and listen to it, and just have fun with that. Some of the radio stations play it every day, like WSQL every day plays it.
Nice. And do you know how many stations it's on at this point?
For Time Warp, it's about 60, something like that.
Wow. You should have a list. I'm looking at your website now. You should have a list of it, where it is,
Yeah. There's a guy in, I want to say Gary, Indiana. That's not Gary, Indiana. It's Michigan City. WIMS and WHFB. Rick Federici, you know him?
I know of him. I don't know him.
Well, he runs my shows, which is really nice. And I've known Rick since Traffic Days way back. And
yeah,
he is a station owner and he plays my shows. And I give him a little custom shout out because he asked, can I please make it 59 minutes and 50 seconds exactly? I'm like, okay. So for him, I do it and I tag it out with his call letters at the very end. And he's the only one I do that for, but that's because he's a good guy.
So each episode's about an hour.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I try to make 60 minutes exactly because a lot of these stations that run it have other programs that they run, and it's exact timing.
And when you put it together, how do you put it to each episode together? That's a lot of work to put together an hour-long show every day.
It takes about an hour to do the hour show.
That's
but I don't listen to the music for the entire song. It's just kind of piece it all together with a cool edit and microphone, and I take phone calls. People call in. I piece it all together.
And then, are you doing commentary? What does an episode contain? I mean, you're doing the song. What else are you doing for it?
I feature a radio station each week that was big in its day from around the country. I go on Google and I research like WASH in Washington, D.C. What was, number 1 through 10, 1965. And you get a playlist and I can find jingles and stuff and I piece it all together. And it's usually about a 10-minute segment where I play little snippets of the top 10. And then I play the number 1 song, the whole song. And so I do that each week. And, every week it's a different station, whether it's KHJ Los Angeles or WLS in Chicago, WCFL, WISM. It could be anywhere, So I repeat those quite a bit, though. I haven't really actually put new ones together lately because there's just no point to do it.
Have you considered doing? I don't know if you can hear the siren. There's some siren outside. Have you considered doing any stations in the UK since you have UK listeners?
Not specifically. For example, one day my wife and I, we were in England and we were in a suburb of London and we were at some thing in a forest preserve. They were doing a festival or something. And there was a radio station there, and I said, "Hey, what kind of music you guys play?" He goes, "Oh, we do oldies and stuff." I said, "Well, I have this show you might be interested in." Give him my card. Next thing you know, he's playing the show.
Nice.
So again, I don't go out and ask people to run my show. They find me generally, or in this one case, I found a guy in the UK. But it's fun.
But you said that you feature a different radio station every week. Do you only feature American stations?
Yeah, in Canada. I would feature UK if I had the information.
Ooh, maybe you can do a shout out to those people, or in your episode say, if you are in another country, let me know. I mean, because now we have the internet, so we can research anything.
Well, yeah, I mean, I could look that up, I suppose, see what was big at Radio 1 or something like that.
Yeah.
I never really thought about doing it. But,
well, see, I'm your agent, so there you go.
Yeah, thank you. That's good.
So when you do this, I mean, I know I asked you this like several years ago, but I don't even remember. What made you want to start doing this Time Warp Radio? Because you were working a lot in radio already.
I think what it was all about was being able to play the kind of music that I wanted to play. At the time I was doing traffic and I wasn't really on the radio, disc jockeying stuff. And that's really where my roots in radio were. I started in 74 at KLWW in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And I was a top 40 DJ at the age of 22 or something like that. And I'm actually, one of the few people who could say, you know what? I've had jobs in radio since 1974 to 2022 consistently.
Wow.
So that's a pretty long time.
And you have an incredible love for radio, because when I talk to you, you're just so passionate about it. I mean, why do you like it so much?
I don't know. It's just something I've been doing forever and really love doing. And I'm glad I have the opportunity here at WSQL to go back on the air every once in a while, but I don't have to do it on a regular basis. Believe it or not, being retired, I am just as busy as ever. It's
really?
People say that, and it's true. But the fact that I don't have to get up at 3:40 in the morning anymore, that's nice.
Yeah. But okay, so retirement, I don't want to retire. I mean, it doesn't seem
that now. You say that now.
But it doesn't seem, maybe because I helped my parents for a long time, so I saw what retirement looks like, and it doesn't look very appealing. But how can somebody be so busy being retired?
Well, right now I'm concentrating on health. I know it's hard to believe, but I've lost like 45 pounds in the last months. Can probably see it in my face if you take a good look.
Wow.
What I do is I ride a stationary bike every day consistently for 8 miles, 30 minutes straight. And then like today, I went out and rode my real bicycle, another 5 or 6 miles. But I've noticed, and this is why I started doing the stationary bike, is that I would go bike riding around here. I'd do 5 or 6 miles, something like that. But I realized it wasn't consistently riding, because a lot of it, you go up a hill and then you go down a hill. And when you're going down a hill, you're not riding, So the stationary bike, you're forced to do it. And I've been doing it. And I've been watching what I've been eating as well. I've cut back on, sweets and things like that. So it's true what they say, diet and exercise will, be good for you.
But what about the beer situation? Because if I lived around all those breweries, I'd be tempted to go there.
I had 3 last night. It was good. But at my age, when I have 3 beers at night, I'm up all night going to the bathroom, man.
Really?
It's
okay.
Like that. So I may not do that today. Take a break.
Okay, so I don't know.
Yeah. I'm not, committed to drinking every day, and I could take it or leave it.
Okay, now, so compared to radio, starting on radio in 74 and then leaving in 2022, what are some big changes that you saw over those years?
Well, we used to play carts and records and stuff like that. And everything's digital. In fact, a lot of radio stations now, most of them are pre-recorded. I mean, everything is pre-recorded. It's unbelievable. Even the traffic nowadays is not live. It's pre-recorded. How can you do pre-recorded traffic about instances that are happening now? But wait a minute, I recorded that 10 minutes ago. And this is what's happening to radio right now. Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Well, WBBM and WGN have live traffic.
Yeah, they do.
And I don't know about, I'm sure LS does too. I don't know, because I've never worked there. So.
I don't want to give out secrets, but WLS, at least on the weekends, I know for sure it's pre-recorded 10 minutes before it actually airs.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
It's true. But nobody cares. Nobody cares. And a lot of the stations at iHeart, they're doing this thing now, since I left, where it's a generic report that runs on all the stations. So it's one person pre-recording 20 seconds of traffic, that runs on all the stations.
What? That doesn't make sense because they've got different roads and everything. So how do they do that?
It's generic.
But what are
You
they
know,
talking about? Like, oh, it's busy out there.
the Edens, the Kennedy, the Eisenhower, the Stevenson, the Dan Ryan, and Lakeshore Drive's doing okay. Back to you. And that's all they do.
But there
it's
could be
just,
an accident. There could be an accident and they're not doing okay. That's strange.
well, it's not going to be relevant. And I realize now, after doing traffic as long as I did, what can you do, really? You're stuck no matter what.
Yeah.
If you could reroute around something, that's good. I think when I was on BBM, we had a pretty good system going there. It was live every 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And up to date. Had a lot of followers, and still people write me and say they miss me, which is really nice to see.
That's nice.
Yeah. But I was on WBBM for 17 years.
Yeah.
And before that, I was on WMAQ with Pat Cassidy and Regine.
Schlesinger?
Was it Regine? No. Who was it?
Yeah, I thought she was at WBBM like most of her career, all of her career.
Yeah. No, it wasn't Regine. I can't remember her name right now. When I had COVID, it messed up my memory. It really did.
Yeah. It's funny because I had COVID recently and my allergies improved after that. It's very strange. I didn't really have it that bad. I have so many shots in me, so much vaccine. So, but like also about radio though, what do you think it is about radio that people are so fired up about it? Like I talk to people and sometimes they're called lifers, and even if they go to another career, there's still something about it that they want to be connected to it. I mean, can you explain that? I mean, because you're lucky to be in it for many years and you're still doing it now.
I don't really have an answer for that. I think
You don't ponder it. You don't ponder it.
No, I don't think about it.
Okay. Yeah, you're not like me.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I mean, people are like locked into it. You see it on Facebook and some of the chat rooms and things like that.
Yeah. But also people who are in it. I mean, people who do it, there's something thrilling about it. And it's not a fancy kind of business, but I guess it's the urgency or something.
Well, I think the thing about radio that was appealing was you could look like anything and be on the radio.
Right. Although now with social media, you have to be careful.
True.
Because they do videos and stuff.
Yeah. But there's some pretty ugly people on the radio, but they sound great.
Right. And also one time somebody showed me works at another, I won't say which station, they work at another station. They showed me this one person who's on the air and they use a filter for their pictures and everything. And so they showed me the filtered version, then they showed me the real version, and the person looked totally different. So people are using, special effects.
I mean, you could do that, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay. So what are your, other than the radio station and so forth, have you ever tried to do anything in Asheville?
No, it's really too far from here to try and do something there. We'll go to Trader Joe's in Asheville, and it's an hour trip to get there.
Wow.
The airport, the Asheville airport's actually in Arden, North Carolina, and that's 25 minutes from here. So that's nice. So then, you could fly to Chicago in like an hour or so, something like that.
Well, I know that you're living in luxury now, retired luxury. Sorry, I mean, you're mostly retired, but do you miss anything about Chicago?
The restaurants, the culture. I don't miss the crime and the congestion and all that.
Yeah.
That I'm glad to be away from. But boy, Pequod's Pizza, one of our favorites. Miss that a lot.
Oh, I never go there. I've only gone there once or twice. But
Pat's Pizza.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. But also, when you first got into radio, did you have a vision for what you're going to do later? Did you ever think you're going to retire from it, or you just didn't think about it?
Never really thought about it. I mean, I was kind of forced into retirement.
Right.
I was planning to retire anyways, and it just worked out pretty well for me. But I realized kind of people that I was working for just were not cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I think it's hard to find a good company. I mean, most people don't have the most incredible experiences working for radio or media companies. So
No, I mean, they're all out for themselves, and top management and everybody below them, they don't care about.
yeah. I mean, I like where I work, but I'm not I mean, I worked there before, so. But okay, so anything else you want to talk about with Time Warp and how, further about your global expansion plans with Time Warp?
There's no plans for global expansion. If anything, I'll probably just stop doing the show eventually, just because it's time consuming. But
It's only been 14 years though. You have 14 more to go.
If I live that long, that's good. I really believe that people live 60 to 70 pretty easily. 70 to 80, not so much. 80 to 90,
rare.
Blessed if you make it that far. And I'm going to be 70 years old this December, and I can't believe that. I mean, that just blows me away.
That's wow. Yeah, because wasn't your generation like all anti-adult and so forth, So now you're one of them.
Yeah. Nobody wanted to be, your parents.
Right. But any plans for your 70th birthday this year?
No.
No big party?
Haven't even thought about it.
Okay. Well, you got to start planning. It's already May.
Well, we're going to be traveling around. I'm not sure where we're going exactly. My wife is in charge of all that. So, but we're going to be going some places. We may go to Aruba. That's a possibility in October.
Okay.
With a friend in Chicago, actually. So we may do that. We'll see.
Okay. Well, we'll catch up again because I'm not living in the luxury you are, and I'm living in a city, and there are sirens and stuff. So we have to catch up again because when Time Warp hits 15 years, or when it hits 80 stations, that's a big deal.
Well, I'll keep that in mind.
Oh, by the way, I noticed that you use Libsyn, and have you always used Libsyn to host your podcast?
Yeah, they've been pretty good. I pay them, I think, $15 a month, and it holds everything I need, and keeps track of where people are downloading the shows from, and it's all over the world. It's amazing. I don't know where people in Tokyo are finding the show, but they are, because I could see the downloads.
Nice. Yeah, because Libsyn, I think, it's one of the more established podcasting hosting platforms, and you've been with them for a long time, and I see that their distribution is really good. So, oh yeah, another thing I forgot to ask you, what are some comments that people throughout the years about Time Warp Radio? Have you gotten some interesting feedback about it?
Nothing particular. I mean, I get a lot of regulars that call every week and make requests, and they're like family almost, because they constantly call.
Okay.
I've got a station in Iowa where I worked for so many years. I didn't work at this particular station, but it was across the street there, KCJJ, and had a lot of people that listen to me that remember me from Iowa City, and it's kind of fun to talk to those folks.
Do you ever get any requests from abroad?
From where?
From other countries.
Oh, no, I haven't. Maybe emails and stuff like that, but not phone requests.
Okay. Well, yeah. So the phone number I see at your website is 312-869-2069. They can make a request, or they can email you bartshore@gmail.com.
Yes, that phone number is a leftover from the days when we had phone numbers in Chicago,
Yeah, that's true. Okay, well, I'm going to wrap
it up. If you get a new phone number in Chicago nowadays, is it still going to be 312 or 708 or 847, or how's that work?
No, there's some new they've added some new area codes for the suburbs, but I forgot what it is because I'm still in the basic. I still have a 312, so
Yeah, I wonder if you got a brand new phone number, if you just moved there, if you would get a 312 if you lived in Chicago.
ooh, I think 312 is taken up, but you might luck out and get a Google Voice number. But yeah, that's a good question, but I guess I'd have to ask people who moved here. But usually people retain their phone
Oh,
number
their
from
old
somewhere
number.
else.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, exactly. Nobody's getting new numbers anymore.
right.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, let me stop this really fast and let's see. Okay.